In the quiet hours of a weekend in March 1972, while most of Los Angeles slept, 7 men executed what would become known as the most successful bank burglary in American history. They didn't use guns. They didn't make threats. They simply walked away with millions of dollars that didn't belong to them. This is the story of the United California Bank burglary, a crime so perfectly planned and executed that it took the FBI months to solve. A heist that netted between $8 million and $30 million. A case that would connect organized crime figures, politicians, and even the President of the United States. Los Angeles, early 1972. Richard Nixon was president. The Vietnam War was raging. And in the sunny suburb of Laguna Niguel, a quiet branch of United California Bank held a secret in its vault. Hundreds of safety deposit boxes filled with cash, jewelry, and other valuables. What made this branch special wasn't just its wealthy clientele, but its location, far enough from the busy city center to avoid unwanted attention, yet close enough to serve the elite of Orange County. The bank's security was considered state-of-the-art for its time. Thick concrete walls, a sophisticated alarm system, and a vault door weighing several tons. But for a group of professional thieves from Youngstown, Ohio, these weren't obstacles, they were challenges. Amil Dinsio was the mastermind. A career burglar who had already hit numerous banks across the country, Dinsio had perfected his craft. He wasn't a typical criminal. He was meticulous, patient, and above all, incredibly skilled. Alongside his brother James Dinsio, nephew Harry Barber, and several trusted associates, they formed a team of specialists. Their target wasn't random. Rumors circulated that this particular branch held something special: safety deposit boxes containing illegal campaign contributions meant for President Nixon's re-election campaign. Whether this was true or not didn't matter to Dinsio. The promise of millions was enough. Planning for the heist began months in advance. The Dinsio crew operated with military precision. Each man had a specific role and expertise. While Amil led the operation, his brother James handled the alarm systems. Harry Barber, young and athletic, would be crucial for accessing the building. Their first step was surveillance. For weeks, they studied the bank's operations from a distance. They noted when employees arrived and left, when the cleaning crew came through, how often police patrols passed by. They observed the neighborhood patterns, learning when the area was busiest and when it was deserted. Next came the technical research. The team needed to understand exactly what security systems they were up against. They obtained blueprints of similar bank buildings, studied alarm catalogs, and even spoke with alarm company representatives while posing as business owners. The plan they developed was audacious yet simple. They would enter through the roof over a weekend, neutralize the alarm system, and break into the vault using specialized tools and explosives. They would take their time, the whole weekend if necessary, to access as many safety deposit boxes as possible. What made their approach remarkable was the attention to detail. They purchased identical alarm components to practice on. They calculated the exact amount of explosives needed to breach the vault without causing excessive damage or noise. They even timed their movements within the bank to avoid detection from outside. In February 1972, the team rented a vacant building nearby. This would serve as their base of operations and provide a place to practice aspects of the break-in. They also rented an apartment with a view of the bank, allowing them to monitor activity patterns more closely. As the date approached, they gathered their equipment: drills, explosives, specialized cutting tools, communication devices, and disguises. Everything was carefully selected to leave minimal evidence behind. The heist began on Friday night, March 24, 1972. Under the cover of darkness, the crew approached the bank building. Harry Barber, the youngest and most agile member, climbed onto the roof. Using tools to create an opening, he made the initial entry point. Once inside, the first critical task was to disable the alarm system. This was James Dinsio's specialty. With surgical precision, he located the wires and bypassed them, ensuring no signal would reach the monitoring station. The building was now effectively invisible to security personnel. With the alarms neutralized, the team had the entire weekend to work. They set up portable lights inside and began the laborious process of breaking into the vault. Unlike movie heists where safecrackers use stethoscopes and gentle touches, the reality was far more physical. They first drilled holes in strategic points around the vault door. Then they inserted precisely measured explosive charges. The explosives weren't meant to blow the door open. That would create too much noise and damage. Instead, they carefully weakened specific points of the door's locking mechanism. After the controlled explosions, they used specialized tools to manipulate the damaged locking system. It took hours of patient work, but eventually, the massive vault door surrendered. They were in. Inside the vault lay their real target, hundreds of safety deposit boxes containing the wealth of the bank's affluent clients. One by one, they drilled into each box, carefully removing the contents and sorting them. Cash, jewelry, bonds, and other valuables were collected and organized. They worked methodically through Saturday and into Sunday, taking breaks only when necessary. They knew that banks in 1972 didn't typically check their vaults over weekends, giving them ample time to work without interruption. By Sunday afternoon, they had opened approximately 500 safety deposit boxes. They carefully packed their haul into duffel bags and suitcases, cleaned up as much evidence as possible, and prepared to leave. The exit was as carefully orchestrated as the entry, with the team departing at different times to avoid drawing attention. Monday morning, March 27, 1972. A bank employee arrived to start the week and immediately realized something was wrong. The roof entry point was discovered, and shortly after, the damaged vault door. Police were called immediately and the investigation began. The scope of what had happened quickly became apparent. Between 400 and 500 safety deposit boxes had been opened and emptied. The initial estimates put the loss at around $8 million in cash, jewelry, and other valuables. Later claims would suggest the figure might have been as high as $30 million. The FBI took over the case, led by Special Agent William Reeder, who would later become famous for his work on bank robbery cases. The crime scene offered few immediate clues. The burglars had been careful to clean up after themselves, wearing gloves throughout the operation and taking their tools with them. What investigators did find were small traces of evidence, footprints, drill shavings, and residue from the explosives. They also collected witness statements from people in the area who might have noticed unusual activity over the weekend. The bank heist made national news. It was described as one of the largest and most professional bank burglaries in American history. The press was fascinated by the technical skill demonstrated by the thieves, as well as the sheer value of what was taken. There was also immediate speculation about the target. Why this particular branch? Rumors began circulating that some of the safety deposit boxes contained illegal campaign contributions intended for President Nixon's re-election committee. Some accounts suggested the money came from Howard Hughes or even organized crime figures. Whether these rumors were true has never been conclusively proven, but they added a layer of political intrigue to an already sensational crime. The fact that the burglary occurred during the same period as the Watergate scandal only fueled these theories. For the FBI, this case was a priority. The sophistication of the crime suggested it was the work of professionals, likely with experience in similar heists. Agents began reaching out to informants and reviewing similar cases across the country. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A witness reported seeing unfamiliar men in the area during the weekend of the burglary. They had been staying at a nearby apartment and seemed out of place in the affluent community. This led investigators to the rental property, where they found traces of evidence linking it to the crime. Further investigation revealed that the men had come from Ohio. The FBI began focusing on known bank burglars from that region, eventually zeroing in on the Dinsio crew from Youngstown, Ohio. Amil Dinsio had a reputation for precisely this kind of work: sophisticated bank burglaries that targeted vaults and safety deposit boxes. Agents tracked the suspects back to Ohio and began building their case. They interviewed associates, monitored their spending patterns, and looked for any signs of sudden wealth. They also compared technical aspects of the burglary with previous jobs attributed to the Dinsio crew. By August 1972, just 5 months after the heist, the FBI had enough evidence to make arrests. Amil Dinsio, James Dinsio, Harry Barber, and 4 other men were charged with the crime. The investigation had been remarkably swift for such a complex case.
63-year-old James Dinsio of Canfield came out of the FBI office in Boardman first on his way to federal court in Akron on bank burglary charges.
Dinsio, anything to say?
Yeah, I'm innocent.
Next was his 56-year-old brother Amil of Boardman.
It's a frame job.
Frame job?
Yeah, it'll come out in court.
Come on, get out, gentlemen. Please give us away.
Wait a minute, let him, let him see me. It's a frame job. It'll come out in court. These FBI guys are lying like hell.
The trials began in late 1972 and continued into 1973. Despite the strong circumstantial case built by the FBI, prosecuting the burglars proved challenging. Much of the evidence was technical and difficult to present to a jury. Additionally, none of the stolen items had been recovered, making it harder to directly link the suspects to the crime. Nevertheless, the prosecution prevailed. Amil Dinsio, James Dinsio, Harry Barber, and their accomplices were convicted and received sentences ranging from 10 to 25 years. The convictions were a significant victory for the FBI and a warning to other potential bank burglars. Yet the story doesn't end with the convictions. Only a small fraction of the stolen money and valuables was ever recovered. Estimates suggest that less than $100,000 of the multi-million-dollar haul was ever found, leaving open the question of what happened to the rest. Some theories suggest the money was laundered through legitimate businesses. Others propose that it was hidden away in locations only known to the burglars. A more dramatic theory is that some of the money was reclaimed by powerful people who didn't want their illegal campaign contributions exposed. The burglars themselves maintained a code of silence about much of the operation, particularly regarding their clients or the ultimate destination of the stolen goods. This silence has only added to the mystique surrounding the case. The United California bank burglary transformed bank security across America. Financial institutions realized that weekend vulnerability was a serious issue, and many changed their security protocols as a result. Regular vault checks, improved alarm systems, and better roof security became standard. For the FBI, the case became a textbook example of how to investigate a sophisticated burglary. The methods used to crack the case have been taught to new generations of agents. Special Agent William Reeder, who led the investigation, went on to become one of the Bureau's foremost experts on bank robbery. The burglars themselves have become somewhat legendary in the annals of crime. Unlike violent criminals, they were viewed with a certain fascination for their technical skill and planning. Amil Dinsio, the mastermind behind the United California bank burglary, later gave interviews and shared details about the heist after serving his sentence. He spoke openly about the planning and execution, but remained careful not to implicate others or disclose the full extent of what happened. Decades later, the political angle remains intriguing. The timing of the burglary, just months before the Watergate scandal broke, has led some historians to speculate about connections. Could the same safety deposit boxes that allegedly held Nixon's illegal campaign funds also have contained documents related to other political operations? The full truth may never be known. In the years following their prison terms, the members of the Dinsio crew took different paths. Some returned to crime and faced additional sentences for new offenses. Others attempted to live quieter lives away from their criminal pasts. Harry Barber, after serving his sentence, moved to Pennsylvania and tried to start a new life. He eventually shared parts of his story, becoming one of the few participants willing to discuss the heist publicly. His accounts have helped fill in some of the gaps in the historical record, though many details remain vague or contradictory. Amil Dinsio maintained his reputation as one of America's most skilled bank burglars. Despite spending many years in prison, he never expressed remorse for his crimes, viewing them instead as demonstrations of his technical expertise and planning abilities. In later years, he even published a book about his criminal career, though many have questioned the accuracy of his accounts. The United California Bank building itself has changed over the decades. The site no longer operates as a bank, and few passers-by would recognize it as the location of one of America's most famous heists. Yet in books, documentaries, and FBI training materials, the story lives on.